folks to leave and folks to enter right now, and then we'll get on with our program. So you just heard from Clarence Zuber, who was born in 1907. At that time, this church, built in 1889, did not have insulation put in the walls of the church. So a couple years ago, when repairs were made to the siding on the west and south side of this church, in part from funds raised from this event to the stone tops, insulation was added. So you have the benefit of being in a 136-year-old church today that now does have some insulation in the walls. So thank you for your contributions, all of which go to maintain the structure of this church. Okay, we're ready for our next speaker.
Up next, Mary Baribeau. We will be joining Mary on her 90th birthday party.
Well, thank you for coming to my birthday. Here, have some cake. Pass it around. Here, have some cake. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to my party. Here. Thanks for coming to my party. Here, have some cake. Pass it around. Enjoy. Have some cake. Thank you so much for coming to my party. Here's some cake. Pass it around. Thanks so much for coming. Here's some cake. Pass it around. Welcome. Thank you all for coming to my 90th birthday party. My name is Mary Baribeau, but my maiden name was Becker. I was born May 31st, 1921, and I was the only child of Mary and Thomas Becker from Stockton, California. My parents moved to California from Iowa, and we moved to Oregon soon after I was born. My parents bought an 80-acre farm just outside of Sublimity on the east corner of Silver Falls Highway and Victor Point Road. For elementary school, I went to Oak Grove School. It was a one-room schoolhouse with a bell tower, and it was right next door to our property. I later went to high school at Mount Angel Academy. Since our only form of transportation was a horse and buggy, it took 2.5 hours to get to and from school and home. So instead of traveling back and forth every day, I worked for my room and board, and I stayed at school during the school year, and I didn't get to see my family while I was at school. After I graduated from high school, I went to business school, and there I learned skills that would eventually help me with my career. I began my career as a civil servant for the U.S. Department of the Navy at Tongue Point in Astoria, Oregon. My duties as a civil servant varied quite a bit. I could be doing clerical work, administrative tasks, work at the library, sometimes even doing social work or public health, just depended on what was needed that day. I felt my job was really important because it helped the efficiency of the local government operations. It was there while I was serving my country that I met my husband-to-be, Ralph Baribeau. He had enlisted in the Navy and was stationed at Tongue Point. We married in February 1949, and our first of 6 children was born in Astoria. The summer after Robert was born, I received word from my mother that my father had passed away. He had a heart attack while chasing sheep around the farm. And so my mother was not able to take care of the farm herself. So the 3 of us moved back to the farm to help her. While at the farm, we added Margaret Mary, Thomas, Ronald, John, and Annette to complete our family. Our lives mainly consisted of work, learning, and family. Ralph took night classes at Cascade High School to learn more about farming. And then he also went to the Chemeketa Community College to learn skills in graphic design. We were always busy. I loved gardening. And while we were on the farm, my 1-acre garden fed us all. I taught my children how to preserve the food so that our budget would stretch. I would take the children to the berry farms, or we would pick fruit in the Silverton Hills. We spent a lot of time in the peach, apple, cherry, and pear orchards. We were second-generation members of the Union Hill Grange Hall. Now, just so you know, the National Grange Hall movement started in Oregon in 1873. It was a way to help rural areas recover from the Civil War and to address issues that farmers were having, like tight money, high railroad rates, and the lack of effective communication between the farmers. The Union Hill Grange and Sublimity played a critical role in our community. It was often the focal point for social events, meetings, and brought a sense of community to the area. I remember that on Friday nights we would have our business and planning meetings, and then on Saturdays we would socialize. We would have a dinner together. We played friendly games of pinochle and sometimes danced the night away with our friends. We'd have dances, family celebrations, and we took pride in representing our local farmers at the Oregon State Fair. Our Grange showed off my family's produce at the fair. And our Grange, we'd also enter baking and textiles, crafts, photography, and talent into the fair. Sometimes we'd win cash prizes. The whole family benefited from our Grange. The kids had youth programs like FFA, 4-H, Scouts, and Rainbow Girls. The Union Hill Grange also helped us farmers by advocating for improvements to our rural roads, new technology for farmers, flood control, and getting electricity to our property. Fun fact, from the very beginning of the Grange Hall organization, they allowed women to vote way before Congress did. We had this Grange Day at the state legislature where we would discuss timely issues with the state representatives and the senators. We helped create Granger laws, which aimed to regulate railroad rates and Grange storage fees. I even got my car insurance from the Grange. Union Hill Grange Hall was the center of my family's life for quite a while. In addition to farming and raising a family, Ralph and I both secured jobs outside of farming. He attained a job at the state of Oregon in their printing division, and I decided to take a job with the Bureau of Land Management and assisted with timber sales. I've learned to drive a tractor, but I relied on others to get to and from work because I didn't get my driver's license until I was in my 40s. We were both very loyal to our jobs, though, and we stayed there till we retired. As far as farm life was concerned, we stayed there until we had enough saved up to buy our own family home, which was just over here on Main Street. We were told it was one of the first homes in Sublimity, and as the story goes, it was moved into town from one of the farms just outside of town. After we bought our home, we felt like we were finally a part of a real community here in town. And we wanted to be active members of that community. We joined St. Boniface Church, and here Ralph was a regular Sunday usher, and I became a member of the Altar Society. I loved sharing the roses that I grew at our house to decorate the altar. I was also involved with the local garden club, the Professional Secretaries Association, and the Home Extension Club. We owned a printing business in Staten called RB Press. And Ralph and I enjoyed attending PTA meetings, leading Cub Scouts, and square dancing at Forester Hall. Our home was always filled with friends and family regularly, and we never knew who might stop by. I spent a lot of time canning, making pies, taking classes. With so many interests and hobbies, life was never dull. But my favorite thing to do was to spend time with my 7 grandchildren. I knew God wanted me to be a servant to others, so I made a point of doing things for other people, whether it was delivering a meal, visiting someone in the hospital, or just calling them to let them know I was thinking about them. I made sure to keep the parish with all the canned goods I could possibly make, just in time for the annual chicken dinner. Even with all my busyness, I still took time out to serve God. My dad used to say that you attend a person's final services not for them, but for the people left behind. And I took his words to heart. I attended pretty much every memorial service and funeral for everyone in the community, even if I didn't know who they were. People teased me about it, but when you serve God, you do what He calls you to do. And then I'd also be able to come home and call the kids and tell them all the new gossip. In 2004, Ralph passed away. I tried to remain in our home, but it was just too hard for me to maintain. My daughter Margaret invited me to live with her family in Jefferson for a while, but as my health declined from diabetes and other issues, I stayed in a group home and then a foster home in Staten. I was able to move back to Marion Estates in Sublimity just in time for my 90th birthday, where here my friends and family are throwing me my birthday bash. So proud of all my children. So nice for them to throw me such a big party. Each of them has lived a life of purpose and passion and love. My oldest, Robert, is an abstract expressionist artist living in New York City, creating beauty and meaning through his work. My son John lives in Texas, where he sold insurance, and he also owned this historic bed and breakfast, the Colbert Hotel. And his brother Ron, a gifted chef, ran the kitchen there. Rand's culinary talent was also recognized beyond our family. He had recipes published in the Sunset magazine. My son Tom, who was left us too soon at the age of 52, is buried here with me. He's forever in my heart. He was a juvenile counselor and a youth advocate for challenged youth. My daughter, Margaret Mary, worked as a dedicated home health nurse. She lives in Jefferson, surrounded by her loving family of 3 children and 4 grandchildren. My youngest, Annette, still lives on the original family farmstead. She raised 3 children and now delights in her 21 grandchildren. She served for 45 years as a social worker, making a difference in countless lives. Each one of them has carried our family legacy forward in their own way, and I couldn't be prouder. I've had 90 years of love, growing in wisdom, and seeking quiet strength from the Lord above. My prayer for you is that you live your life filled with peace